So today we did more ankle picks and single leg, and then so after ankle pick, switch to the cross ankle. Cross ankle and circle to north-south. With the option to hoist. So as you're circling, you can grab the near side wrist, near side sleeve, hoist, and the hoist is from a squatting position. So you're not bending over the waist and pulling with your arms. You're squatting, elbows bent, and then exploding up through the hips. You're not really using your arms at all. You're just keeping your arms locked in the like with your elbows in. So you hoist. Then he will probably bring his near side knee in and frame. So you need to punch your leg side arm into the hip, not his hip, but the ground right next to his hip. So you want to punch. You want to have a fist because you want to break your wrist or anything. You want to keep your arm vertical and straight. Don't bend the elbow. Other hand comes around and to the back of the head. So around the head and back to the back of the head. Pull his head off the ground and put your head into the middle of his chest in north-south. You're pulling his head off the ground because that prevents him from framing, or it takes all the power away from the framing. When you're framing, you're using your arms to keep the opponent away. So when you're pushing his arms, you're also pushing with your back against the floor. So pulling on the head prevents or reduces the amount of force that you're pushing against the floor. So if he throws his leg over, you go the other way. You bring the arm that's not holding the ankle cuff in and sort of prevent the foot from framing against you, and you circle to the other side, and you can punch down with the other, and then you release the ankle and punch down with that hand. Same thing as on the other side. This is actually the same situation that Thiago taught the leg drag. So we were also doing a tripod pass in that situation with the foot throwing over, and he did like he did a leg drag, staple with one knee, come across, come back up, and then staple with the other knee, and then consolidate on the pass. So this one is just try doing a tripod pass to the other side. Let's see. Yeah, I think that was all passing. Then I did a private. Then I rolled with. I went to the advanced class and rolled. Had 3 rounds. One was with the brown belt. One was with Jason, the instructor. Both of them just felt tied up, super tight. The brown belt, like I knew I needed to get my shoulder off the ground, and I was just pinned down. He had I think he was like an underhook on my legs. Not exactly sure what was going on, but that's what it felt like. Which obviously, like, I guess Nick did that to me yesterday when we were doing butterfly. He shut down the butterfly by hooking my legs and squeezing them together, like smashing them together. So, and I don't know, the brown belt just put me in like these weird situations that I've not really encountered. Mostly like separating or squeezing my legs together. Yeah, and then Jason, very similar spots where like I didn't know what to do because I physically couldn't move. I was just tied up. Like I knew what I should do. I knew I should have framed, but I couldn't get my arms inside. I couldn't shift my weight at all. Like I couldn't even make a wrong move. I was just tied up in a knot, and it's the first time I felt that way in a while. Yeah, like, so the whole point of jiu-jitsu is like to give the other person a series of bad options. Like I think like Jason just shut down everything. And yeah, and I knew that it was also hard to process because like I'm sure there were other options that I just couldn't think of, but in the heat of the moment, there was one time I was in his close guard and I stood up. He basically I think he let me stand up, but I couldn't open his guard, and then I switched to the seesaw thing, which worked. But like for a moment I was like frustrated until I remembered the seesaw thing. Yeah, so it's also a matter of knowing the right technique. Yeah, but in the pressure of the moment, it's hard to remember all the options that are out there, and you just shut down everything that is familiar to me, I guess. Or obviously, maybe I just didn't remember something that was available to me because I just felt like so tied up. The other thing, so then after, and then also Rolled Edward, he twice did this thing, and then he also did it to me on Monday, I think, where I'm in turtle, and then I was in turtle, and he armbarred me, but I'm not sure how it worked. I'm not sure what he did, but it just like was so fast that I know I just left something wide open. Yeah. And then I did a private with him, and we covered getting out of spider guard and knee shield. So the spider guard is when you're standing up there on the ground, but they have your wrist, they have your sleeve grips, and their foot is in your bicep. So if they have really long legs, they can extend their leg and pull your arm, and you're kind of like a puppet on a string. And I've always had trouble with this because my arms are shorter than their legs, like significantly. And also my gi, or the gi I had, is like kind of big, and my sleeves are super long. So yeah, I'm just like asking for it. Yeah, so it showed me how to do that, how to get out of that, and basically just a rodeo pass. Rodeo pass and then into the tripod pass. Then we also worked on not getting flattened out in knee shield. So this is a pretty big leap in understanding, is that knee shield isn't, there's a lot of nuances to knee shield. So my understanding of knee shield before was kind of to stay tight in order to do like a wrestle up or a sweep. So you need to be tight to do a sweep, but then you're also very exposed if you're very close. So there's actually sort of variants or different stages of knee shield. Like a stronger knee shield is when you are, your shoulders are square to the ground, or stacked to the ground rather. You don't want to be flattened out. So I would just flatten myself out and pull myself closer to my opponent in order to do something called a knee lever, when in fact a knee lever is more like a emergency move. You do it when you're being flattened out. So you shouldn't flatten yourself out in order to do it. We worked on, if I'm already flattened out, how to get into position to do a knee lever and to get into butterfly. And then we also worked on what's a strong knee shield position and how to use that to get into butterfly or wrestle up from there. Yeah, so just like a big jump in understanding like the nuances, and not just understanding, but just like new way to approach it. Yeah, so Tim is saying like whatever you do, the first option you do kind of sets the tone for the next sequence, right? So if you have two options, if you do option A and then option B, that's going to be different than doing option B, and if option B doesn't work, then doing option A. So like whichever of the two options you try first is going to set the tone for how it's going to go. Because for example, if you're doing like a knee lever or wrestle up, if you try to do the wrestle up, it's going to be a little different than doing the knee lever. If you do the wrestle up first and then knee lever as a backup, it's going to be different than doing a knee lever first and then the wrestle up as a backup. That's kind of because the wrestle up, you want to have a little bit more separation from your opponent. The knee lever, you want to be closer in to your opponent. So you're setting yourself up a little differently, and everything will flow from that. Yeah, so just, and I just imagine that's the same for every other situation. And also, so I was using a defensive move offensively, which is not a good idea because you're doing defensive moves from bad positions. So if you're using a defensive position offensively, then in order to attack someone, you're putting yourself in a bad position, which exposes you more and obviously has higher downside. So Tim was saying that the optimal sequence from like a half guard would be to get into butterfly with a belt grip, obviously not to get into to do a knee lever and sweep. Knee lever and sweep is more like a threat in order to get the underhook. And then, if they're not paying attention, then you can sweep them. But it's more like the threat of it. It's one of those moves where the threat of it opens other things up. So it shouldn't be like the first option, which I have been using it as.